Alright, so I added a little bit to this candle drawing. And I'm going to leave this here for you to look at for a moment. If you want to pause and try to add some of these features. But what we added is the background, kind of some window frames, and then some wood grain. And I'm going to show you the reference drawing again, so you can look at both. Here it is. Just put this in the center so you can see the reference. Okay, so I'm not going to do this whole drawing again, but I will show you some of the simple ways, if you drew this already, that you can go back and put in some of these features without too much stress. So the first thing is to figure out where the edge of this shelf will be and where the ledge of the window starts. So it's right about, right there behind the plate. So, and your drawing doesn't have to look exactly like the example or mine, so you can switch it up a little bit if you like. The candle that I drew in this one is a little smaller, and the candle stand is a little smaller than the one in the reference. See it, this part right here especially. I drew shorter. So the proportions are going to be a little different. So this thing right here is a really tall cubic shape. That's what that is. It's a cube. Just a stretched out cube. So most of what we drew here was cylinders. Now most of what we're doing is cubic. Okay, the angles that I'm drawing this at are a little different as well. So you'll notice that as I come down, there's more space in the original between here and there, whereas mine's ending up to be that it's kind of right behind it. And that's partly because of the length of this, the fact that I drew that a little shorter. All right, so, and also on the paper, because this is higher up, there's more of the wood grain section in the foreground than the original. But I want to just get you started on some technique that you can use to draw the grain of the wood. So, and I may actually spend some more time finishing this just to help you with that a little bit. So it's not an exact science, or at least it doesn't have to be. So as you're drawing these lines, you're just kind of wiggling a little bit. Some of them are a little closer together than others, but your lines don't need to look exactly like those. But you know, you use this to help you kind of approximate what wood looks like. And then you're going to darken some of the areas a little bit. And then I'll leave this kind of open space kind of area and maybe put in some of that. So we'll just decide where that sort of material is going to sit. And then of course it continues back up there. So let's just work a little bit on the technique for getting the wood grain. So one edge is darker, and then it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And that's what you're going to try to do. So put a little pressure on the paper, and then next to it, lighter pressure. Put some pressure on the paper, and then next to it, less pressure. Pressure, and I'll go a little heavy, and then next to it, go a little light. Okay, and then you can go back and darken it even more in certain parts if you want. Have more of a transition from darker to lighter. And just keep going, seeing what looks good to you, what looks real to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and darken this a little bit right here. This is the edge of the ledge. I want that to have kind of like a uniform shaded look as it's away from the light. I'm just gonna bring it down all the way. I'm gonna bring this down too sometimes you're gonna frame it and you won't even see that edge, but in the drawing pad sometimes you just want to just keep going. So and there might be another little one in there, but let's try this here. So I'm taking the pencil on the side, trying to approximate a shape kind of like that, and then another one a little larger. And then I can use the same kind of technique where I make part of it a little darker. And gradually lighten it. And I see sort of a linear grain kind of motion, so like the grain of the wood kind of shows up darker, and you can use that also to get some darker value on there in a few places. And then it gets a little bit lighter at the edge. Something like that. And then there's more little details. Where it's the wood. It's not shadow that we're drawing right here. It's the grain of the wood. So let's try to draw that a little bit. And again, you don't have to copy what I'm doing. You can look at the reference. And if you haven't even started, you can start over and you can try to be a little more closer to this one. When I did this the second time, I placed it a little more accurately like the original. But I wanted to let you see some of this technique for making the wood grain look sort of realistic. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this right now because we're still in the beginning learning stages of form. And I would like you to spend some time seeing if you can just focus on the candle and the plate. So, but some of you might very likely want to spend a little more time and try to make it look more realistic. So I want to give you a little help with that, but I don't want to overwhelm those of you that are feeling like, man, Erickson, that's hard. That's a lot of detail you're putting in there. There's the corner. And there's still wood grain on the side, but it's also, generally speaking, a darker value because it's away from the light. So I'm going to just start with the value. Darken the edge a little bit more. All right, so I might come back later and work on this one some more, but for now I'll just explain. So on the on the one I did a little bit further, I was a little more careful, leaving the paper light there, and then just slowly blending up some of these areas where there's shadow on the plate. if you have a small piece of paper, you can tighten it up, or you can use your finger, or you can actually buy these little stumps and tortillones. When we get our art supplies, some of this blending becomes a little easier. I'm actually blending the wrong thing. I meant to be blending over here, because I want to take the color of the pencil and bring it down onto the plate, but I don't want to go too heavy. So instead of putting pencil on there, I'm putting the blender, which has picked up some of the graphite from the pencil. And you can kind of use that like a pencil. But it's lighter. And then you can go over it with pencil again, and you can also go over with the eraser as needed. Let's see, some extra lines that I don't want there, that I'm going to erase in there. And then I'm holding the pencil pretty lightly right now. But that's the technique. You just kind of go back and forth. Looking at the pencil, looking at the eraser, looking at the reference, using the blender, and trying to begin to build it up in a way that looks realistic. And this stage that I got to, I could spend more time on it, and I might, but I'm gonna stop there. I just wanted to give you a little bit of some examples of the technique that I used for those that want to try it out. And some of you will have your own techniques, which I'll use.